Okay, this is going to be like a really quick overview of things. Hopefully we'll have more in-depth things at some point, but this should be enough to get people started maybe. Okay, so Heroes of Hammerwatch folder, we've got, this is a packager, we've got the game, you've got workshop, you've got the editor. So first of all, I'm going to unpackage the assets. That's on the wiki. You can get to it at Unpack Resources. I'll put a link in the description. This kind of explains how to do it. Then I unpack all my resources to unpack. So I have all this stuff here. Like this is the current one, I think. Levels. Like you have all the stuff that makes the game work. So you can see like doodads, generic. You've got all the all the NPCs are here, for example. um, Once you have all of that, you can kind of look through here and see how things are made, like in items. You've got the way items are constructed is you have like all the common items are in commons.sval. This is like save values for things. So if I open this one up, I use Sublime text because it has an Angelscript like add-on, I think. Does it? I might have lied. Angelscript, it does. Okay, which kind of highlights things nicely. But you can see it's just like you have the item. It's a dictionary of items. You have the item name, the string, the item string for the description. This is linked to the language file. Quality, cost, whether it has a blueprint or not. The icon for it. So this will link to the icons PNG file. You have to give it a position. So 24 pixels along, 0 pixels down, and then 12 by 12. Modifiers, this is all the modifiers it does. So this, for example, Amulet of Resistance will do, it modifies the armor class to give you an extra 5 resistance. I think that's something like that anyway. And there's just pages of this stuff. You can kind of look through all of these things. I have it all up, like, second. Yeah, so this is the most recent one. So you can just kind of like look through everything, like all the levels are here. You can look at them like this, but don't. um, GUI stuff is here. Effects, this will be like player effects. I think buffs is in here as well. Maybe. Maybe not. Buff circle. Maybe not. Oh, actors buffs is where it is, I think. Yeah, buffs. So this is things like if you're poisoned, strong poison, this is kind of how those things work. You've got all like the bosses and things in here, players. There's a lot of doodads is kind of all the images and things you'll see, like things like the cliffs. That's a shadow, that doesn't help. Like all the cliffs you'll see in town, that's all there. This will be things like NPCs, I think, are in there. Walls, terrain, just special, generic, special. You'll get things like the mini-map units, colors, editor. This is just kind of like, just have a look through all those sort of things if you're looking for things. That's all in there. GUI I went over. Items is items. That's got buffs in it. There's the drinks are in here, I think. Tavern drinks, that's all here. Item sets. That's temporary item sets. Sorry, it's, item sets is here. All the units and things. This is how things work. So like, if you wanted to change the value for money copper 1, you can do that in here. Like the amount, you could change that to, I don't know, 1,000 or something. That's in there. Levels, we went over. Players, this is all the player class stuff. So Paladin, like this is all the abilities. If you want to change Paladin abilities, you could look in here. So you could look up charge. So you've got the string at the top, the icon for it, the skills. This is everything it does. So it does charge. This is the effect it has, the animation, the cost, speed, duration per level. So 1. This means it's commented out, so it's got this little exclamation mark and a line. So this doesn't do anything here. This might just be for reference. So if I went down to the level 6 version, I could set the duration to like 2000 and go running across the map and things like that. So yeah, players is where to look for kind of all your abilities and things. Also, if you wanted to edit the character, that's a TIFF, so you obviously can't see that properly. But if you wanted to edit the character sprites, that's where you do that. Prefabs, this, I'll get into this in a second. This is editor stuff. More obvious in the editor anyway. Scripts, this is all your scripting for stuff. This is kind of what makes things work. So you'll have things like world scripts will be more obvious when I go into the editor. Things like town, fountain effects. So you'll have like your GUI for the fountain, and then it links in with this, and this is kind of how the fountain effects works. So kind of things that have a GUI will link to a script. There will be scripts to do things like the generate dungeon. This is how things get generated. The main menu, this is how the main menu works. There's a lot in scripts to go over. Sound, this is sounds. Talk to Muffinators about that. He's much better at that than me. Same with Doodads. Doodads talk to Muff. System, icons, light, shadows, environments. I don't really do too much in here. Default mats, that's something Muff was playing around with. Maybe he would know more about that. Tilesets, this is all the ground stuff, like moss, archives, armory tiles. They've all got units with them. Tweak, this is things like, so wishes is fountain things. So you've got the good ones, the bad ones. This is where you can kind of put in things. Class colors, so here's like the colors that things have, player materials. This is dyes, I think, yeah. So these are files which kind of can contain lots of information that gets loaded by other things, sort of like the items. So you could just, if you wanted to add more dyes, you could put them into this, then they would get loaded up by the dyes scripts that goes off looking for these. Buildings, shops, so if you wanted to change things to do with the general store, it's got some stuff in here, or trader, bits in here, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so we've got all that unpacked, we've looked at all of that. Let's do... Did I change that? Maybe I did. Okay, so let's pretend that we wanted to just make a really quick test level to do something. So, let's go back out of this stuff. Let's open up the editor for a sec. It's on the wrong screen, hold on. There we go. Okay, so edit, thinking about it. Okay, cool. So this is what it looks like. You've got, this is your history, this is kind of where everything happens. Properties down here, this is your like layers palette, so you've got things like lighting, doodads, which I mentioned before, scripting, collision, actors, like this is all kind of stuff that you do things with. Open, save, global sampling will be more obvious in a second. Simulate physics, grid, so you can turn a grid on or off. Oh, fun fact, if you have the grid, you can use the numpad to change the scale. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I think 0 turns it on and off. Show origin, shows the origin. Show selection overlay, I always have that on. Show selection names, this is a new one, so if you had a thing, it will just tell you what the thing is. So we got script info, don't know, script line branches. This is useful. So if you happen, so if you've got the, you could open up the. So we've unpacked the mods, and we've unpacked the assets, and you wanted to take a look at, say, the town level, for example. So you could go into the assets you've unpacked, levels, and open up town outlook. You only really get the boss ones here, battlements, challenge, because all the others are generated as you go. So this is just stuff that's pre-designed. Kind of. I'm not sure how battlements works properly yet. But we could open up the town. And there's the town. Shit. 1 second. Okay, there's the town. If you open this up, it would probably look something more like this. All these arrows and things, this is to do with the scripting and how things point to each other. So I just, because I kind of know what I'm doing and it's kind of cluttered for me, I tend to disable the arrows and things like that to begin with. So it's just up here, you can turn off the script lines and things. And these icons are kind of big, so I prefer the smaller ones, which is that one there. So if you click, so let's turn off global sampling for a second because that's confusing. So all of these things up here, so if I went into doodads and I've got doodads selected, I would be able to move things like the tree. It's WASD and D to move around. I could move the tree to there because I have doodads selected. If I tried to do something with a world script or a prefab, I can't. I would need to go into prefabs to be like, move this one here. The scripting and things like that, this is kind of how everything works. So we'll make a quick level in a second and I will go over this a bit more simply because this is real confusing. But this is kind of basically how everything links together. So you would have something like when you get here, oh, this one will give you like more, it was bigger names underneath. So you could have when you get here, sets a unit scene, you've got use trigger, it checks to see whether it's the host using it, I think. Only host true, so only the host can use this, and then it will, I haven't looked at this one for a while, this was a bad decision to choose. So this one will, only the host can use it, it checks to see if everything's ready, then it'll go to the start dungeon, which loads up this dungeon rotation in levels. This is an interesting thing to look at, tweak levels to sval if you want to define your own level rotations, which is kind of the order of levels, so you could have it be all bosses if you wanted, or things like that. And there's plenty of things like that. So the way this town buildings are spawned in, for example, is with spawn town building, and it tells you which one to spawn in. These are signs, so things like the signs and the, what's a good example? Like the dummies over here, you won't see them on the map because they're spawned in with this spawn prefab script, which then spawns in this prefab, dummy normal.prefab. Prefabs are things, prefabricated models basically. So public test. If I go into my prefabs, I could go to town and look up, what was that one, dummy normal? If I open dummy normal, then I get the dummy. So this is the you can't see it because the lighting's off at the moment, but there's the lighting, and you can see it's all this scripting. So you can just have like little things pre-made that you can then slot into other things if you want by loading them with that world script. Okay, so let's make a real quick map from scratch. We'll turn it into a mod, we'll load it up, and we'll go to it. Sounds good. New. So let's pretend we're all new. You don't have to have the assets unpacked to do this. That's just a side thing for people to play around with. So let's start with, so if you try and just start with tile map. So tile map is your ground. So let's say we wanted, I don't know, outlook dirt. Down here you've got reset. You can set the shape, circle or square, changes that, size, make it massive and you can't see it, but there it is. scatter, continuous, all sorts of options to play around with. So if I just placed this here, I get a big old black square. It looks confusing, don't know what's going on. So I need to turn on the lighting, so it needs lighting to see what's going on. There's a whole load of options here. Maybe go with Outlook, because it's Outlook tileset. So here we go. So now we can see everything that's going on. What I want to make is a level that's got a it'll have a portal to go back to town, and it will have, I don't know, we'll come up with something. So first of all, what we're going to need to do is make the game mode, because at the moment it's got the main menu game mode here. We need to change that to, you could put town. I sometimes use test level. If you try and load into main menu, it will just give you all kinds of issues and say that you're dead, and just don't, you can't do it. So I use test level because it's easy and seems to work. So now we need, when we get to this level, we need to know where we're going to spawn. So you need to go to the world scripting, and it is, you can search, it's like start, level start. So you can select it up here, and then you right click to place it. So here we've got our level start world script. You can see up here it's called level start. Execute on start. This is all fine. This is just where you will spawn in when the game starts, when you go to this level. You've got your history up here, you've got all these kinds of bits. So let's say we wanted to do a portal to go back to town. So first of all, we would need a portal. So if we look up a teleporter, teleport unit, you can select it, place it with right click, move and click it, drag it around. You can see we've got our teleporter unit selected. It's got physics, its variation is open. You could have a closed one, you could have a destroyed one. This is kind of, things have different scenes, and this is how you change between them. But we want a nice open one, so we can go back to town. Now this won't do anything. If you just load into this, this is just it's like having a painting. It doesn't have any interaction or do anything. So in order to interact with it, first of all, we need to give it some collision so it knows what's going on. So I go into collision, rectangle, you could use circle, I use rectangle, and we're going to make a little bit of collision. So just right click to place it, pop it over the top, kind of where you want the interaction to be, change the width, I use 32 by 32. There, so now we have some collision, so we can do something here. You can't change that there, so this is somewhere else. Now we need to say to do something with this collision. So if I go into world scripting, I want to have a use trigger, because I want to be able to use this collision to do something. When I use it, trigger it. So we're going to have, so down here we've got execute on startup false, enabled true. So it's enabled, it's not going to activate on startup because we want it to activate when it's used, kinda. Areas, icon, generic, so you could, if you wanted to change the icon you get, so you could have it to be an exit one, a question, revive. This is how you choose the icon for that. Icon disabled, none, because we don't want it disabled. Only host, if you want only the host to use this, you could set that here. I don't care. Priority, I think this is to do with things like if there happened to be a dead player here, whether this would take priority over that. I think. I haven't played around with it. But what we want this to, so we want this use trigger to link to this area, so we need to add an area to it. So click on here, and you're now script editing property, click the unit to add, so we want to add this area. So it's now links to this collision. Whilst this blue text is up here, you are still in this script editing property mode. Remember to go out of this, you need to press escape to get out of it. But now we can see that this links to this. So now when we have a use trigger, we can do something with this, but what's it gonna do? So we would want to, I want this to go somewhere. So I want it, I want it specifically to go back to town, but we want it to go somewhere in general. So let's have a, not a kevel, a level exit, because we want to exit the level, we want to go somewhere else. So pop down a level exit. These don't really matter where they are, which is why in town you'll see the massive arrows pointing around. I just tend to keep things as neat as I can. So this level exit It doesn't execute on startup because we want it to execute when it's done this. This will trigger this script. All the properties enabled, trigger times -1, would only happen 1 anyway. Levels, this is where you can define where you want it to go. Yeah, so to have this influence this, we don't want to add it as an area because this is kind of what's affecting this. So this area affects this, but we want this to affect this. So if you hold down Control, Alt, and left click, you now get this dotted line which says that this then does this. And you see a connection to level exit. If you wanted to add a delay on that, you could do that here, like 5,000 would be 5 seconds delay. Some things use that. Level exit, where do we want this to go? So we want this to go to levels. We want it to go to levels, town outlook.level. Town outlook.level. Press enter. Save it. Oh, I have to save it as a level, obviously. So I'm going to back to my Heroes of Hammerwatch folder. If you don't have a folder called mods already, I have a few. Make a folder called mods. In here, make a new folder for your mod. So we will have my first mod. Doesn't matter what it's called. In here, we need to make an info.xml so that it knows what's going on. This, I believe, is on the wiki. If it is, yeah, I think it is. I'll find the link and I'll put it in the description. So we have our info.xml. This is a... Yeah, this is right. So this is one I've just copied off something else so I can work from it. But ignore this side. This doesn't matter. So we've got our info.xml. Up here, we've got the name of our mod. So currently, this is one I've just taken off an old mod, but this is going to be name Kelly's first mod. Author Kelly from sales. Description. So this is where you would put my first map. My first map. So you've got info.xml. This is the structure. I will, as I say, I'll link to this. I think it's somewhere else. If not, it's here on screen. Array name levels. So if you want to interact with the Kelly the modder NPC and you want it to be able to take you to different levels, this is where you can do it. So array name levels, this is what we're going to do. So under here, just tidy this up so Miss isn't annoyed at me. We want to have very similar to this. So this now links to Kelly's test map. We don't really want to go there. So Kelly's first mod. Description. This is, don't do that. Description, you can put it in a description here. So we'll have my first map. Again, because I mean that's what it is. Then in files, this is where it's going to link to. So when we save, I've kind of gone things the wrong way around here. So this is where it's going to link to. So if we go back to the editor, when I save this level, I want to save it to something that's going to match kind of here. So mods, what did I call it? My first mod. So now we've got this empty folder. I want to make similar to, so the way the unpacked assets were, if you remember, I went into that and then I went into levels and then I had all the levels. In my first mod, I want to do that again. So I want to make a folder called levels. And then in here, I can save it as Kelly. I can't remember what levels I already have. Let's call it Kelly. Let's call it Kelly for the sake of argument. Kelly dot level, because I can save prefabs, I can save levels. I want to say this is a level. So in here, blah 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 blah. Save. It's probably going to pop up twice because it does that. Kelly dot level. So now, have a think about it. In here we've got levels, we've got Kelly.level. That's all cool. So our info under files, we can have it go to levels, Kelly.level. So that's what it's going to link to. If you wanted to link to a dungeon rotation, I mentioned that a little bit earlier, you could have the string name dungeon and then go to your own sval for dungeons. If you wanted to link straight to levels and not have any kind of like name or description, you can just put string the level's name and then string, and that'll also work fine. But let's take this out for now. So I've got Kelly's first mod, Kelly from sales, my first map, name, author, description, levels, level name, description, and file. This is all here. I want to save this to somewhere. Mods, my first mod. It's going to go in the root of my first mod. So mods, my first mod. This is where your info.xml goes. So info.xml, just call it that. And then you'll see up here it should go to mods, my first mods, info.xml. You don't have to use Sublime to use this, you can use anything. But then we should see info.xml right there. All your mods need to have an info.xml in them for it to be able to read it. So what have we got now? So we've made our info.xml. We've got levels with a level in it that we've made in the editor. So now, a quick think, this should work. So if I open up the game, Heroes of Hammerwatch. So go to profiles, pick a save. Let's go with this one. Let me just take off all of this stuff. So we've got Kelly's first mod. So this, you see, it's got the information by Kelly from sales, my first map. It's unpacked. I haven't gone over that. So if the mod was no, so the way you unpack assets, so they come as a bin file, you unpack it, you got all the files. To play multiplayer with mods and to upload them to the workshop, you need to pack them again. You can use the packager to do that. It's real easy. I think there's a link on the wiki for it, but it will tell you whether a mod is packed or not. Like trainer is packed, flat tags will be packed. Some of these are, some of them aren't. So this is unpacked. That's fine if you just want to play by yourself and things like that. Kelly's first mod, so I select that. Okay. Okay. Load into the game. Okay, and now if I go over to the Kelly NPC, you can see we've got Kelly's first mod, it's levels. Kelly's first mod, my first map. Click, and it will take me to my little test map. And I can put whatever I kind of want in here. But if I go up to here, now you see I've got the use icon, and if I use it, it takes me straight back to town. So now I've got this, I can start using this map to kind of do whatever I want to test. So things like if I wanted to put in prefabs, real quick note, you can just put them by like this and right click, or you can do it the way it does it in town, where you use a world script of spawn prefab, then you select the prefab from a list. So I could have, it's interesting. I could have fountain.2.prefab, execute on startup, yes, because I want it to happen when it starts, enabled, yes, yes, yes. So these will do the same thing, except this one you can see and it's got a big old name on it, this one you can't see. If you wanted to, say this little thing here that we've made, so we've got our portal, our collision, our trigger, and our world scripting. If I wanted to move all of this, short of just being like, okay, world scripting, let me just move this, then I'll move this, and then I've got to go into collision to move this. If you go up here to global sampling, or press G, that'll let you select all the things. So that doesn't matter what's going on here, you can select all the things. This will give you different results depending on what's going on. Sometimes there are things you can't see. Just keep an eye on what you're moving if you use this. But this will just let me move the whole thing, or copy and paste it, or do whatever. prefabs. So this will have all of the necessary scripting in it already. So you can just place the fountain and it'll act like the fountain. That's all good to go. You don't need to worry about making world scripts and things. If you want to spawn, I mean, you can do all kinds of things. So I could spawn an item. Put spawn item here, execute on startup true because I want it to be there when I start the game. Comments, I could be like, if I wanted to remind myself what it was, like the item, and then you get a little word above it that says item. Item ID. I haven't played with this. This is a fairly new world script, so I'm not sure exactly how it works. Let's see if that works. So in theory, this will spawn an old map for me. Spawn town building. Spawn effect, spawn enemy form. There's a lot of world scripts. A lot of them are fairly obvious what they do. Some of them aren't. Hopefully we'll document it better, but yeah, ask in Discord is the best if you want to find out things about that. Items, this is all the items and things. Kinda. If you just try and spawn like an item here, I'm not sure that'll work because you need to spawn it through a spawn item script. Or that's all there. Actors. You could put the warden here and he would just carry on as he was. So if I just put the warden there. Generators, game mode, collision. Is there anything I haven't done? Brush is kind of, this lets you kind of brush things. So if I had snow chunk, I could have some snow that I just brush on. Text, if you wanted to put text on something, you could have, comes up with text, you want the text to be hello. Now you have hello as a text. One of these shows it in game, the other one doesn't. Debug true, debug false, I can't remember which one's which. Let's just try false and see which one. If it's not one, it's the other one. Is there anything I haven't covered up here? Actors. Actors was this. Items I have mentioned. Collision, world scripting, lots of world scripts. Doodads. Plenty of doodads to pick from. This is where you'll find things like the walls as well. So, there's a good example. Like mine granite H unit, this will be things like the horizontal wall. If you select it, you can do Control D to duplicate it, move it along. This is kind of how all these things are made. And you've got like vertical units and things like that. Yeah, I can't think too much else here. There's a load of shortcuts and things like that. I think they're on a thing somewhere. If you have this up and you want to just load straight into this map and try it out, you can do run game, Control T, and that will just load the game straight up. And give me a missing level because I've done something stupid. What have I done? These teams do maps going on. How much my first model levels? Kelly. That should have worked. So I've got a missing level. So my first thought is maybe my game mode. No, my game mode's fine. Not sure. Sometimes you have to randomly troubleshoot things. Maybe the mod isn't enabled? No, it's enabled. I'm not sure why that didn't load into that. Oh, this will look like the old one just because if you look, because it saved it when I was in the old one. If I come here and I go into Callie's first. Did I not save it? Am I just being stupid? This is what modding's like, just trying to figure out what on earth is going on. Fail to open level. Mods, my first mod level is going. It's a test level, it's got a level start. Not entirely sure why this wouldn't be working. It's saved properly. Try it in game. Just try refreshing some things. Okay, there we go. I don't know why that didn't work. So we've got our old maps here. Hello. So whatever I set that to is right. We've got the wardens just chilling out. Hanging out. This is our two fountains that I talked about. I don't think there's anything else here. Here's the snow that we had. If I go back in here, back in town. So yeah, play around with that kind of stuff and see if that works. I'm kind of confused why loading straight into it didn't work. As far as I know, that should work. I'm not sure why it wouldn't. I'll have to investigate that more. But yeah, it seems to work otherwise. Cool. Hope that's helpful for some people. Feel free to shout at me in Discord if you need anything else. It's so weird why that doesn't work. What if I have... Hold up. Let me just see if it works with a different level so I can prove it works. If you don't have the mod enabled, that can give you issues sometimes. So let me try and remember where all my levels are kept. That should be fine. So if let's say I load up my test level. Mods, Kelly main, I think. Levels, Kelly test. Okay, so if I try and load straight into this, this should work. It has done before. If this doesn't work, then this needs to fix something. Okay, yeah, that works. I'm not sure why... No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. Going back to default route. Okay, that works. So I'm not entirely sure what I've done. Test level. Kelly main, Kelly test. My first model levels. Yeah, not sure. That should work. Hopefully it works for you. If it doesn't, yell at me and I will keep trying to figure this out. Yeah, not sure. Okay, cool. Hope that's helpful. Sorry if this is long and kind of waffly. Hopefully it's helped someone. Cool, thanks, bye!